Our presentation today is on reducing infant mortality. I'm Alexandra Seha.
I am Sharice Griffin.
Ashley Hansen.
Christy Merrill.
Cassandra Perkins.
Excellent. So, pregnancy in younger adolescents, 14-19 is highly understudied. In the U.S., 9% of women aged 15 to 19 become pregnant each year, 5% adults give birth or a baby, and 3% will choose to have induced abortion, and 1 will end in a miscarriage or stillbirth. So our aim study is to kind of risk factors or increase in infant mortality among adolescent mothers, providing psychoeducation and community resources during their sexual education courses in public schools. So we're going to use a 5-point Likert scale for pre and post test during the sexual education program to understand their knowledge of prenatal care and local community resources, and compare that with a sample T test used to analyze the relationships between pre-test and post-test measures. So we have a hypothesis that providing the community mental resources and education will help the prevention of clinical care during it in their sexual education program in the school, increase access to early prenatal services, will reduce infant mortality. And in conclusion, like providing these education and community resources will increase their knowledge and confidence in utilizing the resources that are available to them for the early maternal care, and offers a tangible solution to the social epidemic of infant mortality among especially socially economically disadvantaged racial minorities within Riverside County. All right, next slide.
All right, so the prevalence of the problem. So through our research, we discovered that 12% of adolescent pregnancies are reported to be in females younger than 14 years of age. And of that 12%, 1% end in a miscarriage or a stillbirth. And infant mortality rates among adolescent mothers suggest a strong correlation between socioeconomically disadvantaged ethnic and racial minority females to be at the highest risk. And lastly, infant mortality rates increase with the lack of access to adequate healthcare, education, and intrauterine growth restriction, anemia, and nutritional deficiencies. And so that's why we proposed that the education or psychoeducation of these risk factors to be implemented during their already scheduled sexual ed classes. And then here are the current resources for Riverside County for youth. So there's the CalSafe program, which is part of the RCOE, Office of Education. And then there's also the School Age Parenting and Infant Development. And so the issues that I found in researching the resources of Riverside County is that everything is aimed at reducing pregnancy, and so more preventative, and does not have any kind of psychoeducation about the risk factors that actually cause infant mortality among adolescent mothers. And then so with the NASW Code of Ethics and Standards of Care with Adolescents, and so the NASW Code of Ethics states that healthy adolescent development depends on safe and supportive environments. And so as social workers, we aim to provide those safe environments. We also advocate for adolescents to have freedom from violence and the risk of physical, mental, and emotional harm. And adolescent pregnancies can also cause youth to experience alienation, disenfranchisement, and discrimination from their families, communities, and social institutions. And also, 1 in 3 teens in the United States will become pregnant by the age of 19. So this really highlights the prevalence of the adolescent needing the extra support and education in overcoming these barriers.
All right, so within our study, we utilized 5 different sources. All 5 different sources do focus on the prevalence and adverse of infant mortality. Next slide, please. So the potential implications that we did find within our study was that the research has future implications of infant mortality that creates increased disparities among adolescents. The second one is that youths who are marginalized on several intersects of their lives, meaning racially, socially, economically, ethnically, and culturally. And the third one is that there's little research that offers a tangible solution to the social epidemics of the infant mortality among socioeconomically disadvantaged racial minority teens within the United States. Next slide.
Okay, so now we are doing the data collection, and could I have the next slide? Thank you. It is the measures that we used on experimental design. It was the intervention method for observations, experimental group, and control group, and we used those just to compare how the experimental group or the control group is either the same or if it became different. The internal reliability is producing on overall score, so we use that to just look at all the overall score on our measurements. The test and retest reliability, looking at the stability of the measurement. Face validity, we use the psychoeducation, using the culturally sensitive, we did age. We looked at the age, the ethnicity, gender, and economic status. We used this questionnaire to develop and improve from past measurements. Next slide, please. The development. We used some questions, and we looked at all the demographics in the developing the questions. So it's like getting the clarity, avoiding double barrel questions, such as like saying, using and in the questionnaire, avoiding bias items. Questions should be culturally sensitive. There was something I wanted to say. It was just making sure that your items are clear on one culture, but it may not be as clear in some other cultures, so you just have to look at that. The readability level, it's dealing with the junior high school adolescent, so you really do have to make sure like your questions are clear, dealing with them, make them clear and concise. Don't go so far into like the details or anything like that, but you just gotta really look at, the age group of what you're dealing with. So for that junior high school adolescents, it's 13 to 15, so you don't wanna have complicated questions. You wanna, make sure that they understand what you're asking them. Next slide.
The largest sample for this study consists of junior high students throughout the Riverside County with an age range between 13 to 15 years old. Exclusion criteria for students 12 years and younger or 16 and older. Sample size is estimated to reach 400 students within the city of Riverside. One group pre-test, post-test design.
All right, so with confidentiality, we're going to use consent forms for the students and the parents as well. The participants will be numbered, so there will be no identification in the surveys other than just the numbers, so no names or anything like that, just in order to protect their confidentiality. And to further keep their files and everything safe, we're going to have a key locked cabinet, and any data that's going to be on computers or laptops will be password protected. And when traveling with the surveys, the researchers will put the surveys in a hardcover case, and we'll use or we will put them in the trunks so that they have less of a possibility to get stolen. Next slide.
Okay, so the data analysis plan. So after we collect the pre and post tests and have all of our quantitative data, then we're going to go ahead and use the SPSS version 2.0 for statistical analysis. And then we're also going to use the frequency distributions and percentages of the demographic information as well, which we'll be able to obtain the means and standard deviations to use and identify adolescent knowledge pre and post test. And also with the risk factors of infant mortality and their attitudes. After that, we would use the paired sample t-test to determine the effectiveness of the school-based psychoeducation and the community resource intervention combined to promote adolescent prenatal knowledge and attitudes that we hypothesize are going to reduce infant mortality among these adolescents. And then we're also going to use the Pearson correlation analysis will be performed to test the relationship between adolescent knowledge and adolescent attitudes about the interventions. And so all of this information was collected through the ESOA city program training. And then for the assent form, we followed the BBS standards as far as obtaining child consent, which is the assent form. And the example, we created a full example assent form of what we would be presenting to the BBS in our full research proposal. And that can be found in part 2 of the research proposal under Appendix A.
So we will be utilizing the 5-point Likert scale on infant mortality. We would be using this scale just because it's utilized to measure someone's attitude by measuring the extent of which they agree or disagree with a particular question or statement. So in this case, we would be obtaining the adolescent's knowledge of, the sex ed courses and what they learned. So that's one reason why we will be utilizing this Likert scale. Next slide. And that concludes our presentation with our list of references. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.